into the Train with the Best podcast, the podcast that's bringing high performance to the people. I'm Craig Hoffman, a fitness and media professional.
And I'm Chris Gorres, master trainer and international presenter.
And also dad of today's subject.
That's
very
right.
important. So today what we're going to do, if you don't know, Chris is one of the foremost ACL rehab experts, frankly, on the planet. He has been consulted by all kinds of people. He has worked with all levels of athletes, including some high level performers, specifically on ACL rehab. This is an area that he is very well respected and knows a lot about. Which made it very, I don't even know what the word you would use, Chris. Very, I'll let you insert the or fill in the blank in a second, something when your daughter in her first college soccer game suffered an ACL tear. And so you and Mila have been working to get her back post-surgery a couple months ago. It's going incredibly well in terms of the timeline of it all. And it's been, for all the ACL rehabs you've done, a fairly unique process. That said, it's following the same process that all the others do. There's just maybe a couple of unique twists, turns, and lack of roadblocks in the way that have allowed you to operate in the way that you have. So with that set up, first of all, let's fill in the blank. Like what was it, if you go back to that injury, and like, you know, I'm sure there's like an element of confidence where you're like, we're going to get you back. Like, I know how to do this. But also I think, look, if your daughter who's been training with you her whole life,
right,
can
exactly,
tear her ACL, like, you want further proof that you can't injury proof anyone? There you go. You did everything you could, and thus, you know, the forces of nature can strike anyone.
Sure, and that certainly didn't help. That certainly didn't like stop the thoughts of like, how the fuck could this happen, right? Like, how could this happen? We had done everything, you know. Even her, she was like, what exercises did I not do that, you know, could have prevented this? And it was like, look, if there was an exercise that could have prevented this, you would have been doing it. And, you know, unfortunately, you just can't eliminate the risk of something like this. If you're going to go out there and you're going to be competitive, especially in a sport where she was playing soccer and she hasn't played a competitive soccer game in 10 years, for her to go out there on turf with new cleats for the first time and to be in there in the first game. And, you know, she had only been practicing for like a week or two. She's at school for softball, not for soccer, but they needed some players to fill out her roster. And so she got out there, and they loved her athleticism and her competitiveness and like her attitude. So they put her out there, and, you know, it happened. Even in the immediate aftermath of the injury, we were in disbelief that it was a torn ACL, because she was walking around. She was fine. There was no swelling. There was no pain. Yeah, like there were some things that she was limited to or would bother her if she really tried to push it. But it did not seem like this was going to be a torn ACL until the MRIs obviously came back and we could confirm that. So, yeah, once that happened, it was like, all right, well, how are we going to do this thing, right? Are you going to come home? You know, we obviously we want you to be at school. This is a very important time for you to, you know, lay into your friends and grow those roots with your friends and have those relationships as a freshman in her first semester. We don't want to take that away from you, but also, you know, in the immediate aftermath of surgery, you're going to be in crutches. You're not going to be able to move around. How are you going to get to the bathroom? Things like that. So ultimately, we decided to do it here, and, you know, that was the first part of the process for sure.
Yeah, and Dr. O has been on the show. He performed the surgery. Yeah,
Dr. O did the surgery, and it was just ACL. So there was ACL. There was no meniscus. Yeah.
Which is obviously very helpful. So get the surgery. You have Lance, who's also been on the show, your PT, who helps you out as well. And then, like, I mean, she's already dancing around. She's doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you posted this great video on Instagram the other day if folks want to check it out. But so you get into the actual rehab process, and what's the same? Like, what are the things that you'd be doing with anybody? And then for what are the things that are different? And then why are those things different?
So I think, you know, one, it's so different for me because you get to see the raw emotion of that surgery, right? Like I've been there for plenty of our clients before, even the day after a surgery, and see, you know, the pain and the tears and, you know, the struggle of moving around, this and that. Vina was amazing in supporting her and making sure that she had what she needed. What do we need to do to comfort her, to ease the pain a little bit, to get her into the bathroom, to get her in and out of the showers, to get her in and out of the car? You know, all of that was really major on Vina to be a part of that. And then just the outpouring of support from so many people. I will say, like, it is a lonely time in the immediate aftermath of that surgery, and you start to wonder, man, like, I've been here for so many people. Where are they for me now? And then, almost like 2 seconds after that, everybody just started reaching out, and Katina Kamara and her daughter Taylor Shell came over to bring like an ice machine, which was amazing. So at that point, it was like, all right, Chris, snap back into this. Mila's going to need you, right? So at that point, it was like, okay, what are the exercises that we can do? In the immediate aftermath, like, can you move? Can you do ankle pumps? Can you do foot pumps? And can you do like quad sets and just fire your quad and do that? And it's trying to do as much as we can to get her mind off of the pain, get her mind off of the fear and the doubt. So we would sit in the bed and we would play Spot It with cars. We would play little games. We would juggle, like do a 2-part juggle with some tennis balls and some balloons. We would play games with her siblings. We would do all kinds of things just to bring some joy back into her life. Where I think I talked about this in the post, like, so much of this process is eliminating that fear and anxiety with the process, and eliminating that doubt. You are going to get back. You are going to be fine. You are going to get back to moving and dancing and doing all those things. So don't fear any of that. So that was a lot of the first maybe week or two. And then obviously she was coming in here with Lance to check out all of her evaluation stuff, all of her assessments. Are we getting to full extension? Can we bend the knee? All those other things. And then just, making small incremental improvements every single day. And what I will say is, this takes a 1,000% trust, right? So this is where I start to see in the process where it's like, okay, when I'm working with other clients, I have to get them to trust me. I have to get the doctors to trust me. I have to get their PTs to trust me, their coaches, their parents, everybody, right? And then I have to fight off all of the other expert opinions, right? Because I'm going to tell them something and then be like, oh, but I read that this, and this, or I heard that this, and this, or I saw something from somebody who tore their ACL 10 years ago, and this is what they did. And I'm like, okay, like, you can only have one driver of this car, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with you doing all this research and all the other stuff, but like, you have to pick a path and stick with it. You can't keep contradicting yourself every 30 seconds, 60 seconds, right? So, and part of that is finding, like, in that process for a parent, is who do we trust? Who do we trust in this process? Do we listen? Who do we listen to? Do we listen to the surgeon? What is the surgeon's role? Do we listen to the PT? What is the PT's role? What is the coach's role? For me, being who I am and the experience that I have and everything that I've done over the years, it's me driving this ship. And it's not, hey, like, I'm going to listen to the surgeon. Of course, we know who the surgeon is, and we trust him, and we know his role. We know the PT's role. We know my role. We know Mila's role, right? So not only do I know the roles of all those people, not only do I know the ins and outs of the surgery, the ins and outs of the rehab process, and then like the return to play protocols, but I also know my own daughter better than I know anybody else. So that's like all when that all falls into line, like, I start to realize, like, this is never going to happen ever again, because
Right.
you're never going to have somebody who knows everything that, this sounds bad, but knows everything that I know about the ACL and this process, and also knows the patient or the client as well as I do, and has 100% buy-in. Like, if I told her to eat yogurt, she's going to eat yogurt. If I told her to go to bed at 9:00, she's going to bed at 9:00, right? So, like,
Right.
we started to write down everything, because that helped her mental health too. Like, hey, what's the plan for this week, next week? Okay, this is what you're going to do. These are the exercises you're going to do. This is what you need to eat. And like, the nutrition in the immediate aftermath was just like, hey, just eat whatever you want. You're in a rough time. And then, like, after that, it was like, okay, you're not going to be able to move as much as you normally move, so we got to cut calories a little bit. Here's what your ratios are going to be. And like, doing those things really helped her, because it gave her a plan of like, oh, like, we're staging this out. Everything is mapped out. We know every calorie that's coming in, when I'm going to get my sleep, when I'm going to study, all that stuff. So that was the part where I started to realize, like, nobody's messing with this schedule but me. So,
Right.
and I love that, because I was like, cool, I get to control everything. right?
Right.
Because I don't have to be like, oh, well, I had this plan for this person, but now their family's going to go on vacation, which they should. I'm not saying families shouldn't go on vacation during this thing, but like there are so many things that pop up with other patients and clients that like I have no control of. And this, we have 1,000% control of everything. So with us being able to do that, we were able to predict everything and say, hey, this is where we're going to be. And she, to her credit, has done everything that we told her to do and stayed away for the most part from the things that we told her to stay away from.
For the most
Right.
part, she's still an
For the
18-year-old teenager, so
right. She's still an 18-year-old. Right.
little mischievous,
Yeah.
even in Mila Gorres. But I think it starts off with like you're a good dad, and that like mental health prioritization, that obviously matters a ton on a human level, but it does have an effect on the actual recovery. Like stress is bad for recovery for the body, and we know the negative effects of that. So prioritizing the mental health actually does aid some percentage of the physical health recovery. And I think that's great that you guys found the methods to do that, whether it's like we call it journaling in terms of getting the emotions out, or like scheduling in terms of writing it out that way, whatever combination of forward and backward looking and current like processing that you do. I also say you're lucky in this, and like it's part luck and part like you've been a good dad to Mila for a long time. She trusts you, and she also knows
Right.
who you are. And
Right.
like I will say that like that is something, because Mila's my little buddy too. Like like in talking to Mila, like she knows who you are. She understands that she is lucky to be your daughter as an athlete who like sometimes training your kid is the hardest thing. You guys haven't had that relationship because she really buys into like my dad's really good at this, why would I listen to anyone else? And so that trust element wouldn't be there between every father or mother and child who's in this industry, and you guys have that. So that's really helpful. But the higher percentage of the client buy-in, no matter if you're blood relatives or not, is always going to be impactful.
Sure.
As you said, the PT, you employ him, so that's helpful. And then you've known Dr. O for a long
For a
time,
long
and
time. Yeah.
and so the relationship is there, and that's something that you guys have had on other clients, but it's even more so going to be able to be a huge positive, a higher percent positive, when he's not then also listening to the parent over here and whatever. It's like no. I'm both the trainer and the parent. And so there's again no doubt on who is driving this. And then I think the other part that I think would be interesting for people to hear about in terms of why this is I don't want to say totally unreplicable, but like highly unreplicable in a lot of different ways,
Yeah.
is the prehab element, which you don't
Yeah.
know it's prehab until the injury happens.
Right.
It's just training. But
Mm-hmm.
how Mila has trained over the course of her young life in preparation for being a college athlete, and the work she was doing to be the best high school athlete that she could, prepared her to come back very quickly here post injury.
Yeah, I think you made some great points because the rehab really started 10 years ago, right? Like so like her ACL rehab started years before she ever tore her ACL, and that starts with just good habits of like knowing what a workout should look like, knowing what a workout should feel like, um, knowing like how to prioritize a workout so that you're not missing it, right? Like even those simple things of like, hey, like I said I was going to work out today, I'm going to work out. Like nothing's going to take me off of that schedule, right? So just those little things there are habits that she's already has built in. So if you tell her that, hey, this is what your workout is for today, and this is what your workout is for the week, she's gonna nail that. That's not something that she has to practice doing because she's done it all her life. And that was something that again, like I'm starting to realize how much that prehab really helped again with all the movements and stuff. One of the big things we said was, hey, like dance as soon as you can dance because it's one of those things that you do well that builds that coordination that helps you explore movement in a state of joy, because you're either going to be in a state of joy or fear, right? We know there's sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, and if we can get you into a state of joy where you're not doing something crazy, but if you can get out there and dance a little bit and have some fun and explore those movements and do all those things that make you, right? So that you feel like you're you again. And then the last thing is, like you said, like I'm reminded every day when parents call me and say, hey, can you have this conversation with my kid? Because if it comes from you, they'll listen. If it comes from me, they won't listen. right? I'm reminded of that every day. So I realize how special a relationship that I have with all of my kids. And really it starts with Mila because Mila is their leader, they all follow her. So because Mila listens to me and because Mila values the things that I say, the rest of them do. So I realized that, and I've really, it's really started to hit me here in this process where it's like, if I tell Mila to do something, not only is she listening to it as my client or my patient, but she's listening to it as my daughter, and she doesn't question it. She's not like, I just want to take off the brace, right? So, um, so I've realized that that's something that's really special and unique too. That's a part of this process is the trust that is happening now after the surgery really started way before the surgery.
Yeah, and I would say, not to turn this into a parenting podcast, especially since I'm not yet a parent, but like that knowing you two in the relationship, that's not something that comes from fear. It comes from respect. Like it's not like she's afraid to not listen to you. Like she listens because she wants to, and I think that is the highest, like the highest form of a relationship that you can have is people. Like you do something for someone because you respect them, whether it's me and you as friends and colleagues, or a father and a daughter, or whatever other relationship two siblings that have with each other, and on down the list. Anything else that you wanted to touch on from this, kind of going inside the rehab process? Obviously, we could spend a million, and maybe we'll do this in an upcoming episode. A little
Yeah,
bit
we'll probably do it
of like,
yeah,
talk, laying out some of the details. We have done episodes like that before in terms of some of the specific exercises and the more the fitness things. But I think on a big picture level, that's kind of what we wanted to do today. So anything more on that front?
Yeah, I think we will get to that in another episode. We're only 2 months into this process, so I still have to remind myself that, like, hey, like, calm down, everybody slow down. These are things that we can work on and just be really, really good at these things, right? Like, yeah, you feel like you're good at this and you want to move on, cool. Be amazing at it for another 2 weeks and then we can move on. So we've really been like rushing, and then you have these like ebbs and flows of, okay, like, let's push it. All right, let's be patient. Let's push it. We're ahead of schedule. Cool, be patient, because what we don't want to do is keep pushing and pushing. We want to stay ahead if we are ahead, right? So, yeah, we've been nailing that, and like I said, like I'm just thankful that everybody involved in this process, from Mila herself to my team here at Onyx, to Dr. O, to all of her friends and her family who have been there for her to support her. Like it's been a really cool process to see.
Yeah, if you want some more insight on it, want to see some of what Chris and Mila have been doing, there's a couple posts up on Instagram at Trainer Gorres. We repost a lot of them at Train with the Best 21 as well, on our story, etc. And maybe we'll collab on a couple so they'll live in our grid. So you can check it out there. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, or maybe even next week. Chris, you know what I remembered right before we started recording?
What's that?
It's the holiday season. What do we do during the holiday season?
What do we do during the holiday season?
We always do a year-end holiday mailbag.
The mailbag. That's it. I thought that was going to be the mailbag. Yep.
So here's what we need from you. At Train with the Best 21 on Instagram. Send us some questions. What do you want us to talk about? And in the next couple of weeks, we will do our year-end holiday mailbag. It's a tradition, probably 5-6 years old at this point. It's always really fun to hear from you guys and know what you want to know in the world of high performance or fitness, or what our favorite holiday dishes. I don't know. We get all kinds of fun stuff. So it can be fitness or it can be otherwise. Go ahead and hit us up at Train with the Best 21. For Chris, I'm Craig, and we will see you next time on the Train with the Best podcast.